we're pretty bullish. I think Ethereum, which is around 3,000, can easily get to 9,000, 7,000 in early 2026. And then over time, as it starts to be competitive with payment rails, could get to the 20,000 level. So I'm pretty bullish.
Is Tom Lee really who he makes himself out to be in the crypto space? What do I exactly mean by that? Well, for the past roughly 2 years now, Tom Lee has made a massive name for himself in the crypto space as a very bullish individual that is telling us all these crazy bullish predictions on, the crypto space. And then, of course, he's one of the largest Ethereum bulls, which is no big surprise considering his, Ethereum company, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But more recently, I did make a video talking about this, outlook that was pretty bearish coming from Fundstrat. Now, everyone was saying that it was Tom Lee. Again, I've gone over it in the past already. It's not Tom Lee itself, but we will address that. But we do have here big, a leaked Fundstrat outlook warns of a major crypto pullback in early 2026, clashing with Tom Lee's bullish calls because, for the longest time, Tom Lee has been extremely bullish on both Bitcoin and Ethereum and the entire market technically. But it was this, post from Reddit, which was essentially calling for, Ethereum to hit $1,800, which is clashing with, of course, Tom Lee's $7,000 price prediction. So it's interesting to look at this because, again, the only assumption that we can make is, are we seeing Tom Lee using us for exit liquidity while he constantly is going on mainstream media talking about, $10,000 Ethereum, a $60,000 Ethereum, and even at one point in time talking about a $100,000 Ethereum. But it was a part of this breakdown from Sean Farrell, who is the head of digital asset strategy at Fundstrat. That's his bearish outlook. Obviously, him being at Fundstrat, it is concerning that he has this outlook while Tom Lee is saying the complete opposite on mainstream media. Now, when we think about this, we do go over here to the most recent outlook, which was Tom Lee remains bullish on crypto outlook for 2026. Ethereum, which is around $3,000, can easily get to $9,000, $7,000 in early 2026. Tom goes on to say that he still believes Ethereum can reach $20,000 once it becomes competitive with payment rails. This is from Cryptos R Us, and this is on CNBC. Check it out.
Just do tell us about crypto, okay? ETH, they want to know what's your target there. Bitcoin, what do you do with it? It's the one thing that's not part of this melt up that Steve's been observing here.
Yeah, well, crypto was having a good year in 2025 until October 10th, and suddenly the paths of crypto and gold and risk assets diverged. I think as we look back at that moment, there was a liquidation event that was similar to 2022 when FTX collapsed. So it took 8 weeks for markets and market makers to sort of recover and markets to begin to find their bearing. I think that's what's happening now. The outlook for crypto is still really good for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't want to overuse the word super cycle, but we know that Wall Street wants to tokenize everything, whether that's Vlad at Robinhood or Larry Fink at BlackRock. And that's going to bring a lot of efficiencies to Wall Street, but it really brings the use case forward for something like Ethereum. So we're pretty bullish. I think Ethereum, which is around 3,000, can easily get to 9,000, 7,000 in early 2026. And then over time, as it starts to be competitive with payment rails, could get to the 20,000 level. So I'm pretty bullish. I like Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is suffering from gold envy right now.
Yes.
And that liquidation event, gold's been a great asset, now at over 30 trillion. But I think, again, Bitcoin is a genuine store of value. It is supply limited. So I think in next year is really when Bitcoin can sort of begin to recover, and the 200,000 level makes a lot of sense to me.
I want to run through some of your picks and see.
Crypto exchanges are not safe. It does not matter the size of the exchange either. Bybit, the fourth largest crypto exchange by trading volume, recorded one of the largest crypto hacks in history back in February, where $1.4 billion was stolen. And if we're looking at some of the top 10 crypto hacks in history, most of these are resulting from major exchanges. So where do we store our crypto outside of cold storage devices? Well, iTrust Capital offers premium custody accounts, which is one of the safest places to store your crypto because these are fully closed loop systems which are designed to isolate and protect assets. And the best part about this is that if you are holding digital assets on their platform, they can only be withdrawn in USD linked to a US bank account, which means no external wallet connections can happen, which reduces the exposure to phishing or unauthorized transfers. So if you guys do want to tap into one of the safest places to lock up your crypto, you could sign up utilizing my link down in the description below right now, where you deposit $1,000 and you get a free $100 funding bonus today. So yeah, I mean, listen, I do agree with them on, this entire take. I mean, $200,000 is definitely possible, but the question here is he lying to us though? Because again, he's telling us this, but we are also hearing the complete opposite from an employee at Fundstrat. Now, like I said, he's constantly pushing Ethereum hype. I think that's the big focus here because yes, Bitmine, I mean, this is Tom Lee's company. Bitmine on December 22nd gave us a full breakdown of their holdings. 13.2 billion in total crypto plus moonshots. We do have over 4 million Ethereum priced at an average 2,991 per Ethereum, which is massive. And then the rest we do have broken down here. So obviously, he does have a significant amount of Ethereum in Bitmine's holdings. We do have the weekly buys here as well. So he is buying a lot of Ethereum and has been buying a lot of Ethereum. So it's not like he's out here selling Ethereum or, doing the complete opposite of what we would expect if he's talking so bullish on Ethereum. He is putting his money where his mouth's at. But the question here is, what's the big connection back to a big player that we know has manipulated markets for years and years, I mean, decades? What's the big connection here? Because we also have over here from Tom Lee that he theorizes on-chain JP Morgan. JP Morgan is operating supported by 313,000 employees, but a JP Morgan built on the blockchain might only need 20,000 employees and operate with far greater clarity, vision, and efficiency. Using AI, JP Morgan may end up being more of a tech company. Banks could go from trading at price to tangible book to actually having a PE multiple. Walmart and Costco trade 35 to 50x earnings because they systematized their business. The same can happen with JP Morgan and other banks. Now, this is from Bankless. Check it out. Again, this is Tom Lee talking about JP Morgan heavily going to the blockchain.
If I took JP Morgan, for instance, and this is something we've written about at Fundstrat, that they are operating supported by 313,000 employees, but a JP Morgan built on the blockchain might only need 20,000 employees and operate with far greater clarity and vision and efficiency. So JP Morgan may end up being, especially using AI, more of a tech company. They're replacing humans with tech spend and using the blockchain for finality and security. And the multiples of banks should change, going from trading at price to tangible book to actually having a PE multiple. And Kathy Wood has pointed this out. That's exactly what happened with Costco and Walmart, that they used to be traded like typical consumer staples, 15 to 16 times earnings. But because they essentially systematized their business, Walmart and Costco trade 35 to 50 times forward earnings. That's a higher PE multiple than NVIDIA, which trades at 30 times.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, he's extremely bullish on blockchain technology for the long-term outlook. I agree. But the issue here is JP Morgan. It's very interesting that he used JP Morgan as an example. Why would he? Well, if we're looking at Tom Lee, okay, we do have over here a full breakdown of his experience. We have JP Morgan Chase, 15 years, 6 months, from 1999 all the way up until 2014. Again, managing director, JP Morgan. These are two back-to-back positions at JP Morgan that he held. Now, after 2014, he went to Fundstrat, where he became a managing partner, then managing partner and head of research. And today, if we're looking at this, he is the CIO. And when we think about this, it's very interesting that he's constantly shilling Ethereum. He's talking about JP Morgan moving over to the blockchain. We know JP Morgan is already tapped in with private Ethereum tech through Kinexys. This is their private blockchain initiative. It started all the way back in 2015, right at the same, time that Ethereum launched. And throughout this entire time that they were, looking into blockchain, they were launching this as well. They were innovating using Ethereum since pretty much day one. And now we also know that JP Morgan back in November issued their USD deposit token on a public blockchain. Guess which one? Take a wild guess. Oh yeah, that's right. Securely on Base, the Ethereum layer 2 blockchain. Everyone said, oh, they're using Base. It's still an Ethereum based blockchain. It's a layer 2. Now, on top of that, JP Morgan Asset Management launches its first tokenized money market fund, 1215. Guess what? It's on Ethereum. It's on the public blockchain, Ethereum blockchain. And it is powered by Kinexys as well. So we have the public blockchain, but also the private blockchain tapped in too. So it's sort of a mix. It's a hybrid. But the main focus here is that JP Morgan has been locked in forever. Now it seems as though Ethereum, again, Ethereum has always been the focus from JP Morgan. We've talked about them for years and years and years on how they've always tried to make sure that Ethereum is more successful than most blockchains in the space through major lawsuits and things like that, which we'll also go over here in a moment. But it's so interesting that Tom Lee, over the last 2 years has become a very prominent name in this space, shilling Ethereum when we know that he was working at JP Morgan initially. I mean, guys, this is someone who's been at JP Morgan forever, 15 plus years. And now he's shilling. He's one of the largest Ethereum holders, by the way, through his company BitMine. And he is one of the biggest Ethereum bulls in the space. He's connected back to JP Morgan. JP Morgan is extremely bullish on Ethereum. And like I said, JP Morgan was behind the Ethereum mafia since day one. We talked about this during the entire lawsuit with Ripple and XRP. Steven Narioff, which, by the way, is one of the original players from the Ethereum Foundation. He even addressed the Ethereum mafia. He put a spotlight on it. This is all based around ETHgate. And we also have over here, this is from James O'Keefe. This is a full breakdown of ETHgate where, yes, Steven Narioff, who was one of the first involved players with Ethereum Foundation. I mean, this is one of the co-creators of Ethereum. He has documents that confirm that there was billions of dollars in Ether getting tossed around to specific players. And this was a full in-depth, view of just how deep the Ethereum connections went. We're talking about so many big players getting payoffs, money flowing around to, big names. And then it also looks into the connections with the SEC and the clear manipulation that happened for well over, a decade now, where, all of these big players were getting paid off to target specific projects to clear the way for Ethereum to be this massive project. So when we look at this, yes, there is a big issue here with Ethereum. There was a massive conspiracy around ETHgate, which did get, confirmed from Steven through documents as well. We watched it unfold. But now it's very clear that JP Morgan, which is a massive Ethereum bull, is, still here. They're still pushing Ethereum at the same exact time that Tom Lee, who was working at JP Morgan for well over a decade, is now constantly shilling Ethereum. And we wonder why he is so bullish on Ethereum. I do think that there's some sort of connection back to, JP Morgan here on, why we're starting to see so much bullish outlooks on Ethereum. And, again, the only other asset that he talks about is Bitcoin, essentially. I mean, obviously, I do think that, crypto itself will follow what Bitcoin does. Do I necessarily think that, Tom Lee was planted in the space to, just be a mouthpiece and, shill Ethereum? No, not necessarily. But I definitely do think that, core players here are supporting specific chains that are essentially, mafiatized. I really do believe so. And I still think that to this day, the big players were always here. The big banks were always here. It's also why Jamie Dimon for years talked terribly about Bitcoin. Meanwhile, they're utilizing Ethereum. They even said, like, listen, anyone that supports Bitcoin, talks about Bitcoin, they'll be fired on the spot. I just find it very interesting, though, that today we know that Tom Lee is extremely bullish, but I mean, employees at Fundstrat are also going against this. It's so odd to me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys did enjoy this video, definitely leave a like, subscribe.